so I slowly get up and she steps out of the closet. Wasn't my sister, because my sister doesn't have long black hair and scars on her face and isn't as tall as a grown woman. I wanted to scream, but instead I just froze and silently started whimpering and crying. Welcome to Daily Dose Reddit. What is your creepy unexplained childhood experience? Laying in bed one night, it's pitch black apart from the light creeping under the door from the landing. My mum was actually with me in the same room as we had only just moved in and she was sleeping on the floor. I look up and the door slowly creaks open and slowly an oldish woman peers around the door, looks at me and goes away. I just thought I was in a nightmare and turned around real fast and went under the covers, hoping I would wake up. Then I will never forget my mum whispering to me, "Did you just see someone peer around the door?" Safe to say we didn't sleep a wink that night. Not really creepy, but it bothers me still because WTF. Me and my friend were hitting each other with pillowcases. Why? IDK, we swung at each other, both hold tightly onto our cases. We hit each other simultaneously and at the end of the swing we look at our hands and we're holding each other's cases. They just switched, neither of us felt like anything was ripped from our hands or that there was any exchange or anything. They were just suddenly swapped. I have no idea how it happened, it doesn't make any sense. If I could see a recording of anything in my life it would be that moment. When I was younger, no idea how old, I had a dream that my aunt came to visit me. I was named after her husband who died a few months before I was born, so she always loved me. So after the dream I went into my parents' room and told them that Aunt Liz came to see me and she told me to say goodbye. A few hours later they got a call that she had passed away. A few years later my grandfather's friend Mary got brain cancer and she lost her ability to speak and her face was paralyzed. The last time I saw her I told my mom I just wanted to see her smile one more time. A few nights later I had a dream where she was smiling at me. Few hours later, parents got a call that she had passed. When I was 11 to 12 I had a dream my dad died. He was shitting bricks for weeks. 14 years later he's still alive though. When I was around 8 or 9, my family and my parents' friends, along with their kids, had a picnic at a park. My friend John and I were running around as kids do, playing tag. He was older, around 11 at the time. At one point we got separated, I was clearly lost in the park and I couldn't find my friend, much less my parents. That's when a woman approached me. She was rather tall, had long curly black hair, was fair-skinned, and wore thick-rimmed glasses. She must have been in her mid-30s. She looked very much like any number of my parents' friends. Initially, this woman simply asked me if I was lost. I nodded sheepishly. She then held out her hand and said that she could take me back to my mom. I told her, "It's okay, my friend John will find me." She then asked, "Don't you remember me? I'm a friend of your mother's. Come. I'll take you to her." Again, I repeated that. "It's okay, I know my friend John will come find me." That's when she said the creepiest words a stranger has ever told me. "Did you know that you have the most beautiful eyes?" Even to an 8 or 9-year-old, I knew this wasn't normal behavior. Sure, I was a really cute kid with big brown eyes and jet black hair, but I knew that's simply not something a stranger, who literally approached me a few minutes prior, should be saying. Just as she reached out her hand and told me that we could go find my mom together, my friend John suddenly appeared out of nowhere. He looked winded. "Where did you go?" he asked. She looked a little flustered. "Who's this?" he asked. "Kids that age are pretty straight to the point." "I'm a friend of his mother's," she replied, smiling. "Come, let's go find her," she repeated. "Sorry, we're playing tag." "Gotta go," said John. He yanked me by the wrist and we ran off together. Flash forward to a month or so later. I'm going to mall with my mom one afternoon. As we're walking, I suddenly notice the same woman from the park walking towards us. The same long, curly black hair, fair skin, and thick-rimmed glasses. My mother would always stop and talk if she noticed a friend passing by, and yet, this same woman, who's clearly walking towards us, who's obviously within my mom's eyesight, this same woman who kept insisting that she was a friend of my mother's and that we should go find her, why it seems like she's a complete stranger to my mother. And as this woman kept approaching and walking towards us, I remember everything in slow motion. She noticed me noticing her, she recognized the fact that I instantly recognized her, and at the very precise moment when we walked right past each other, I looked up, and she looked down at me with the most devilish smile on her face. My family was very religious when I was growing up. One time we were in church and they'd asked a few members to go to the front so they could pray for someone specific, to a small wooden railing, like a church pew with no seat, so my aunt had gone to the front and brought 5-year-old me with her. We closed our eyes and started singing and lifted our hands in prayer, Pentecostal, and after about a minute I felt someone's hands touch mine, like flat against mine. I swayed my hands slowly from side to side as I'd seen the adults do, and the person touching my hands followed along as normal. I thought it was the pastor's wife, who liked me and in general really liked all the children of the church. I was so happy she'd chosen to pray with me that after a few minutes I decided to break prayer protocol and open my eyes to smile at her, but quickly realized it wasn't her. It wasn't anyone. I looked from side to side to see if maybe the person had moved on to pray with someone else, but everyone else was doing their own thing. There was no one else there. But I distinctly felt someone's hands touching mine. I know I wasn't mistaken. I mean, you would be able to tell if someone placed their hand in yours, right? I don't know if this qualifies as creepy, but for me it's still unexplained. When I was a kid, my dad would take us to a giant lake, with a big sandy shore, like a landlocked beach for hillbillies. I was waiting in the shallow end, when I felt something brush through my fingers. Being 7, and wishing it was a real beach, I thought, maybe these are sea plants. Then realized that was stupid. As I squeezed the tendrils that were brushing my hand, they squished and sunk, and I felt bones through the soft, squishy mass. Finger bones, like I was holding the hand of a child my age. I got out of the water, sat on the shore, and told no one. Year later, my sister said she thought a boy had been kicking her under the water, but when she grabbed at the foot, it felt cold and squishy, and she also told no one. When I was around 8 years old, my bedroom was down a hallway by itself. I had a window that had been broken, so there was a piece of wood in place of the bottom part. The window was very high up. No one could just reach easily. My mother had been cleaning my room that night and had me go back in there to get her glass of tea she had left in there. When I walked in, I glanced at the window and there was a rigid, gray, bony witch-looking finger with a long dead-looking nail and bumps along the finger. The finger was an abnormal length and just above the piece of wood, motioning me to come toward it. I jumped under my bed, terrified, and screamed for my mother. I told her I was too scared to come out from under the bed. She was in the living room watching TV and didn't feel like getting up, and did not realize what I was so scared over. I eventually crawled out and darted out of the bedroom as fast as I could. I am 26 years old and that memory is still as vivid as the day it happened. It has always been unsettling that whatever it was trying to get me to come to it. Thank you so much for watching.